Hey, did you know that Sports Hub STL is presented by DraftKings? The crown is yours. Matthew Rocchio, Randy Karraker, Matthew in for Brooke Grimsley, who is tending to a newborn baby. Congratulations to Brooke and David. And we've got a lot to cover. Bernie Miklasz will join us at the bottom of the hour. Always good to talk to Bernard J. Cards and Diamondbacks coming up on Apple TV. Good luck finding that. I'm a boomer, okay? I can find it. I just don't want to bother. That's cool. Also, a little college football talk, a little Battlehawks talk. Oh, and Around the Horn ends today. So it's all good. What do you got going on, man? Holiday weekend. We got Memorial Day. I'm making a brisket. I already told you that, right?
Yeah, I know.
I'm fired up about that on the Traeger. Yep. Our buddy Mike Ryder got a Traeger for his birthday.
Did he really?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. He's gonna have a blast with that.
He is. Yeah, he's good. What's going on, man?
Not a lot. Busy weekend, obviously.
St. Louis City SC at Colorado. They hated Rapids.
They face off against the Rapids. That's going to be a big game. Olaf Melberg still in charge. Oh, come on, Randy.
What'd you say?
It's going to be a big game. Olaf Melberg still in charge.
Oh, I thought he was saying last game in charge, which would make it a big game.
No, he's still in charge. Yesterday down at Energizer Park was an interesting day. For Media Day, a lot of conversations being had. But no, it's going to be a busy weekend. Got a lot of things to do. Got a lot of sports to watch with the NBA, NHL, Cardinals baseball back in action facing off against the Diamondbacks. And like you said, a little city game as well.
Caw is the law tonight, too, 7 o'clock at the Dome. So a lot going on. Mikolas against Gallen tonight. Cardinals opening that 3-game series with the Diamondbacks. Gallen, he went in the Marcell Ozuna trade. It was Gallen, Alcantara, Christian somebody, and Magneuris Sierra for Marcell Ozuna. And then obviously Miami in Gallen's rookie year traded him to Arizona. And he's had 3 top 10 Cy Young finishes. He's been pretty good. He finished 5th in the Cy Young in 22 and 3rd in the Cy Young in 23. This year, not so great, 3-5 with a 5.14 in 10 starts. And it's interesting, Matthew, when you look at his overall numbers, his strikeout rate of 24.3%, which is really not bad, but it's the worst of his career. And his walk rate is higher than in any year since his rookie year. So this has been a year of regression so far for the former Cardinal farmhand, Zach Gallen.
Yeah, and usually when we have this conversation, the conversation we have the next day is how he gets back on track against the Cardinals, mows them down, 8 strikeouts, 2 earned runs, 7 1/3 innings pitched. That's usually how this goes. So I kind of hate that we're using this preamble again. This should be a series that the Cardinals, the way they're built this year, should win 2 out of 3. This should be the way this is built. Again, their ace isn't pitching well. Their offense isn't very good. Just take it to them. Take it. Like you should be able to win this series. And it's partially a home one. The fact that you let a home series slip away earlier in the week, that I know a lot of people just can't believe they would ever lose 2 games in a row. Randy Karraker, how dare they? I'm excited to see this series. Obviously, you have Miklasz going to start it off. You get Matthew Liberatore and then Sonny Gray, who I don't know if I get more excited about Cardinals games than the back-to-back Liberatore and Gray starts.
Oh, those are fantastic.
Because there's so much potential, and so much of what I'm trying to look forward to in August and September is kind of couched in those 2 starts every week.
You aren't excited about Sonny Gray pitching in August and September, are you?
I'm trying to remain positive.
Sunshine, lollipops,
based on what he gives us right now in May. I'm trying to remain positive.
It doesn't work that way with him.
It doesn't, but a lot of he's putting up some of the best numbers of his career. So I'm hoping that with a guy like Michael McGreevy down waiting, maybe they can get a little smart with how they utilize Sonny Gray to make sure that he's not sweating through the jersey as much
last year.
It didn't. Well, I mean, listen, okay, I'm trying to stay positive, Randy. I told you before the show that I'm trying to stay positive,
Mr. Positive
about the Cardinals, and you're trying to undermine me.
I can be positive about Sonny Gray in May, and
that's all I'm trying.
In June. But here is your Sonny Gray career. Okay, let's just take a look at our friends at Baseball Reference, because they do absolutely fantastic work. And let's look at Sonny Gray's career splits. Now, maybe at the age of 35, he's going to get better. Maybe.
Does he need to be better, or we just need to see? It's not about him being better, though. It's about him being able to bring over the stuff that he pitches for the first 6 months of the season into the last 2 months of the season when you go to the playoffs. That's what the conversation's more about. And I'll say this.
Then you got problems.
It's not great when you have that issue. But I will say we've seen veteran pitchers who have struggled in the postseason figure things out later in their career because they figure out how to manage their body in July and August leading into the playoffs.
But hasn't he pitched for like 13 years?
Yes, he has. I'm not. Maybe he figures it out. That's all I'm saying.
At 35, soon to be 36. Maybe. I hope so.
I don't know. There was a case with a City player last year where like they found out he was getting injured because his wisdom teeth hadn't been taken
out. There you
go. Some weird
maybe
things. And he was like 27 years old, and they figured out we got to take your wisdom teeth out. Don't they usually have that solved by 16? Well, no, he got injured again.
Wasn't there a baseball player that somebody got good when they had, or maybe it was a quarterback when they had LASIK surgery?
Randy,
again, wasn't it Jameis Winston? Okay,
yes, that's actually that's what I was trying to think of. The fact that Jameis Winston didn't know he had terrible eyesight until he was almost 30 years old,
and then he still kept throwing interceptions. Okay, so Sonny Gray in his career, March and April, 3.04 earned run average.
Oh man, we're gonna go through these again.
April 3.04, May the next month 3.72, June the next month 3.78, July the next month 3.86. Then for whatever reason in August, it cools off a little bit and he's down to a 2.81. But then by that time, we've gone through the hot months and the pressure is on. And Sonny Gray's monthly earned run average balloons to 4.07. That's for his career. So
which isn't terrible, but when you need a when you need a how do you refer to it?
Stopper.
When you need a stopper in the playoffs, 4.07 is not the stopper in the playoffs that you're looking for. It just doesn't exist. I'm looking right now at his second in Cy Young finish in 2023, and I want to see what his breakdown was in that split, because actually here this is promising, because 2023 10 years,
that's only a couple of years ago.
Only a couple of years ago, 10 years into his career at that point, his monthly ERAs were 0.77 in March and April, 3.91 in May, 3.95 in June,
getting higher,
4.85 in July, 2.04 in August, and 2 in 5 starts in September.
There you go.
And same thing too, if you look at
Minnesota,
if you look at OPS allowed and things like that, his OPS actually jumped from 517 in August to 618 in September, October. You are playing better teams. You should be at least in September, October. So there is some precedence in his career, in the best season of his career, that he's able to extend it.
Yeah. But by the way, last year, his first year with the Cardinals, 1.16 in March and April, 3.77 in May, 3.53 in June, 6.75 in July. It was kind of hot here in St. Louis in July. 4.5 in August, and then September and October. He was awesome.
The fact that he did it in Minnesota really does kind of crap on my entire argument. Like, could you have done it in any other city? Like, any more punitive weather than Minnesota, and I could make an argument here. But like 2015, the rate was that one of the years that Oakland was like randomly good in 2015? Did they go to the playoffs in 2015? Now I got to look up that year.
Yeah,
too.
I think they did.
Okay, so let's look at his splits in 2015 when he was in his third year in the majors and he was pitching in
Oakland.
Now it's Oakland, where
no pressure to win.
No pressure to win, and also as our boy from Missouri, Samuel Clemens, once said, the coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco.
Yeah,
It's a different side of the bay, but nonetheless, ERA levels. God dang, Sonny. 1.98 in April, March, 1.67 in May, 2.67 in June, 2.37 in July, 2.0 in August, 6.84 in September, October. Son of a. All right. See, I was trying to stay positive to the point where I even was trying to couch that the Diamondbacks going from the best offense in majors to the 5th best offense in majors was their offense struggling. I'm trying to find positives, Randy.
I know you are. It's great. I'm proud of you.
And you're just saying, to hell with your positives.
Well, no, I'm not. He is what he is. And it's the thing is, he's not bad. It's just he'll get you to a certain point and then there will be a drop off. So anyway, Sonny goes against Brandon Pfaadt on Sunday. Tonight, Mikolas and Gallen. Oh, by the way, I didn't give you the Miles Mikolas fun facts. Those are fun. So since that disaster in Boston, first weekend on the road in the season, it was bad. That first Sunday in Boston, right? Doubleheader, and he got rocked around. Since then, 7 starts for Miles Mikolas an average of 5 1/3 innings per start, and a 2.17 earned run average. And he's going to face a team that led the majors in scoring last year in Arizona. They're 5th in scoring this year. But here's the key for the Cardinals this weekend. Arizona 24th in team ERA. Their starters have the 22nd best ERA, or the 8th worst ERA for starters, and their bullpen is 27th. So if you can get through their mediocre starters to their bad bullpen, you've got a chance with this Cardinal offense. So I'm looking forward to this series too. And yeah, you'd like to win it, but Arizona is still good. There's just too many good players on that team for them to stay down for too long. And they're in a brutal division. The Giants are playing better than anybody expected. The Padres are terrific, and the Dodgers are the Dodgers.
Listen,
Fortunately, you got Colorado.
I'm very positive about what Miles Mikolas has done this year.
I'm bullish on what Miles Mikolas has done.
When he came off his 2 scoreless starts to end April, his first start in May was the 3 earned runs in 5 innings, and he's had a
quality start,
and he's had 2 great starts since then. So what I was doing during your entire explanation of the stats is I was back here. I was just knocking on wood throughout the entire explanation because 2 great starts, and then tomorrow or tonight,
one thing
I know what I'm doing on DraftKings Pick 6 tonight. That's all I'm saying.
See, here's one thing that I like to do when with a pitcher like Gray or Mikolas, and this is why you'd like to have a legitimate number one. That remember when we had Chris Carpenter, and you get to September and October, and you knew Chris Carpenter was going to win the game. That's the kind of pitcher that I'd like to have. Otherwise, for a middle or back of the rotation guy, I tend to take a look at the portfolio, what you have at the end of the season, knowing that there's going to be a group of bad starts and knowing that there's going to be a group of really good starts. So for those guys, I don't care when I get it. But for my number one, I want it from April through October. And that's just the way I've always approached it. When I was a really little kid and Bob Gibson was pitching, Bob Force was always that guy. Andujar, when he was at his best, was great all season long. You get to 85 and he throws 300 or 268 innings, and he was gassed down the stretch. He also had the drug trial hanging over his head. Andujar did in 1985, but that's another thing. But Tudor got gassed too when he threw 275. So I'm not going to let that take away from the fact that he was spectacular that year. But that is why you need that horse. If you're going to win World Series, you need to have, at least you used to need to have a horse. Now you can have Jack Flaherty get knocked out in the second inning and still win the World Series.
Okay, so then I got to go back because while I was scrolling through my socials yesterday, a video that we posted of you and Brendan Schaefer popped up talking about the changing of the mindset here. And so my for you, just your mindset here, and I know this is not the Cardinals, and usually we like to couch it as, what do the Cardinals think?
Of course it's the way the Cardinals think. I allegedly get checks from Bill DeWitt. By the way,
that's true, but I know there's at least
text you my address.
I know there's at least somebody there who disagrees with your opinions of Sonny Gray.
Okay,
just based on direct interactions, or indirect interactions of people getting mad at things we post. Anyhow, if you really truly think that hoping for long-term success from Sonny Gray is not the smartest bet to hedge,
is it long-term being in the the season?
Yes, as in late in the season, as in expecting him to continue success through August, September, October, and into the playoffs. If you make the playoffs, does the fact that they don't have, as you referred to it just a moment ago, another ace like Chris Carpenter, does that not change how shouldn't your standing thought process with the Cardinals be until they either have the amount of ammo to trade for that number one, or they can sign him? Because the way the financials work out in an off season, these teams shouldn't really care about the playoffs because they're spinning their wheels with the current pitching staff they have.
Oh, they don't care about the playoffs.
I know. Yes, but we're talking about how we're shifting away from runway, and we are moving to a point where if
this is 2026.
Yeah, well, but do you think the Cardinals have shifted away from runway in 2025? Because I think they've shifted away partially from some players' runway in 2025.
If they get an offer today from the Dodgers for Ryan Helsley or for Nolan Arenado. They're trading Nolan Arenado.
If they got an offer today for Ryan Helsley, would they trade him?
Depends on the offer, but they would certainly look at it.
Okay. I just there had been a shift in the conversation and the tone of the conversation from no matter what.
I think we have had that shift. I think publicly as fans, we may have had that shift. And Ali is always saying the right thing. Hey, I'm trying to win. The players are that are in that locker room are trying to win. But the fact of the matter is that if the Cardinals could find a taker for Nolan Arenado and he would go to that team and he's their highest priced player, they would move him. They have not gotten away from the idea of this being a developmental year. And oh, by the way, one of those items might be Matthew Liberatore turning into a number one.
Do you believe Matthew Liberatore can develop into that level of number one that you were just referring to?
Now that he's had consistent chances to start, I have no reason to believe otherwise. This is the first time in his major league career that he's had an opportunity to get 10 starts in a row. And he's showing us that he's capable of it. And I'm pretty sure that once Quinn Matthews is healthy in here, that he's going to be one of those guys too.
And that changes the equation potentially. And what they project for him is big. For me, Matthew Liberatore, he doesn't have the strikeout numbers. I think to be that level of pitcher every single season that you're saying, if we get into the playoffs, he's our horse through October. Mm-hmm. And again, Jay Ryan disagrees here. Libby will be a number one. I talked about these numbers the other day. He's pushing his strikeout numbers, but even pushing them from 14% to 22%, he's still just middle of the pack. And I just don't know if we're going to see him push it another 6 to 8% to where he's actually in the top 10, 15%, where guys like, yes, he doesn't do it for the full season, but that's where a guy like Sonny Gray is the majority of the season and gets him into the Cy Young conversations.
So let's go with who's pitching right now, because as we mentioned, the sport has changed.
Yes.
So who's that guy? Who's the number one right now in baseball where you say, okay, that's the guy I want starting game one of a World Series for me?
Paul Skeens.
And what's he done?
I mean, he continuously goes 7 and with 3 or 4 hits and 6 or 7 strikeouts. I mean, the Pirates had another. I think he had another. 8-inning shutout that the Pirates lost 1-0 the other day.
So right now,
I'm just saying he shows the stuff, and because you're right, he doesn't have the track record, and same thing to the point Matthew Liberatore doesn't. But the ceiling that he shows is that you can believe he will be that pitcher for you down the road.
And you don't think that Liberatore can reach that level?
I'm just going off the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. The way it's changed are guys who can strike out a high amount of players every time they're out there. Right. And while Liberatore has upped his numbers right now and is being extremely efficient, he isn't walking anybody. I just wonder if we're seeing the ceiling of his strikeout abilities. And right now where it's at, that number tells you that unless every other number around him is elite, then that puts a cap on his ability to be a top 10 pitcher in Major League Baseball. To that level. I'm not saying he can't be an extremely useful, 1B, but if we're talking about that 1A stopper, every time you're out there, you're confident. I'm not saying he's going to win every time, but you're confident he can give you that. I just don't know if the strikeout numbers from Liberatore say he can reach that pinnacle. And that's not a shot. It's just.
Yeah. And I wonder if in this day and age where pitchers are generally going 6 innings, if that's as important as it used to be. Because to me, the key is getting strikeouts out of your bullpen.
That's fair.
In this day and age, especially when you have a ballpark where people can't hit home runs. It's a really hard hit. Liberatore pitches in a park where it's really hard to hit the ball out of the ballpark.
You know what? And that's something you've mentioned multiple times in our discussions. And I'll admit, I don't do a good enough job equating that, because that's half your schedule. That's a way you have to build your team around a thing. That'd be like ignoring whether or not a hitter's a lefty if you're talking about the Yankees. It's a good point.
Now, that being said, strikeouts per 9 this year in the National League. Mackenzie Gore, outlier, because this is his first really good year. Yeah. But then after that, it's Chris Sale, world champion, Zach Wheeler, World Series, Dylan Cease, absolute stud that most teams would like to have, Yamamoto, who's having a fabulous year, and the Dodgers have evaluated as being great. Michael King with the Padres. Meyer with Miami, another outlier. But Jesus Luzardo, everybody loved him in Miami, and they love him even more in Philadelphia. Nick Pivetta is having kind of a renaissance year. And then Logan Webb with the Giants. So there's your group of your top 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. And all of those guys, I think, are people that you say, okay, I'm okay with him starting game 1 of a playoff series for me.
And that's kind of my point. And where I'm just saying those numbers, by the way, everyone you listed there is at 10.0 or higher. That's kind of where the break happens with a super impressive number. Liberatore is at 8.08. Mm-hmm. So it's he's not trailing, but that's a big chunk between those two numbers. Liberatore is 6th in Major League Baseball in K to walk rate, which again, that's one of those things that if you can be elite at everything else, if you can keep a contact rate high, the ball low, home run rate low, you can mitigate not having the highest strikeout per 9 in the league. But like you said, to your point, that list is populated by a lot of guys who have shown what they can be and exactly what we're talking about. We hope one of these pitchers can be for the Cardinals.
And I by the way, I do think that most teams, with what they have seen this year, if they found out that Matthew Liberatore was available to them, they would love to have him on their team.
Yes, that's a very good point.
So Liberatore will go. Let me make sure I get this right. He goes tomorrow, correct?
Yes.
And so it's Mikolas tonight, Liberatore, and then Sonny Gray on Sunday for the Cardinals and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Meanwhile, as the Cardinals take on Arizona this weekend, the Cubs, who are red hot and are going to give the Cardinals a great opportunity to chase them. Cubs are at the Reds, and I look at the Reds as a real disappointment. I thought the Reds under Tito Francona would be really good, and they have not been really good yet. I don't know if it's a managerial thing, if he needs to get his guys in there. And during the second half of the season, generally his teams will play better than they did in the first half. But, man, Cincinnati sitting there a game under 500, 5.5 out of the lead in the division. Not that they're done, but they have not done what I expected them to do.
There are 2 points in the last 7 years where I was texting with a Cardinal fan, and our consensus was, I'm a little worried that the Reds are building a talent pool that might get them kind of good. And I think that was like 2018 or so where we kind of had that thought process. And like you said, that didn't work out. And then it was like 2022 where it was again in the last 2 years, hasn't panned out either. And so to that point, I was really, from my just Cardinal fan point, I was like, man, I don't want the Reds. They're producing all this talent. It's all going to hit at once. This is going to be an annoying, like, when the Pirates were good for a minute there, when the Cubs won the World Series. I don't want to have to deal with this in the Central Division. And it just hasn't. It hasn't come together. No. And I think it's probably because they've just never had a consistent pitching staff from year to year.
Right. And that ballpark doesn't help them out. Yeah. So American ballpark. It is a division that's there for the taking. Lex Luthor has a great point here. MLB's problem, and if you consider this, if you think that MLB has problems, is that only like 3 to 5 teams, Dodgers, Yankees, Mets, Phillies, maybe the Padres, have star power. The Cubs have a lot of local fans, so add them too, but Busch will struggle without them. And that's one of the reasons that the Cardinals went out and traded for Arenado and Goldschmidt when they did, coming off of the era in which they had Holiday and Beltran, Berkman, Pujols, obviously. The Cardinals are a team that has liked to have star power in the past, but the earning power of those players has kind of passed the Cardinals by, and most of the teams in Major League Baseball. So to your point, Philadelphia, big market, top 10 market, can afford to go and to get those guys. The Mets, the Braves, all top 10 markets can afford to do it. But then you look at the smaller markets, the medium to lower markets, and they can't get those guys. The Dodgers obviously have more stars than anybody else. The Giants go out and get Willie Adames, and they get the Korean center fielder, and they sign Matt Chapman. The Padres are the outlier here, but they've let players walk away, and they're stuck with a bunch of guys into their 40s too. It really is haves and have-nots in Major League Baseball in regards to superstars. And what you have to do, if you're a franchise like the Cardinals, this is what they're trying to do, is develop their own stars. And this is one of the reasons that they want to give people like Walker and Gorman the opportunity. The stars might not be the guys who they thought were going to be stars, because I kind of think that Wynn and Victor Scott II are probably going to wind up being the stars on this team. Yeah. Maybe Newt Barr, but he's 28 already. I don't know that he's really got that ceiling, but I think those young guys in their early 20s have the opportunity to be stars. But to your point, if you want to draw fans over the course of 82 games on a consistent basis, it's hard to do it unless you have those big name guys.
Yeah, I agree.
Or win an awful lot.
And also just the economics of bringing in those big name guys, it's completely different for teams like the Dodgers, Yankees, and Mets who are how many years ahead now on when it comes to what the new realities of the TV market is. I mean, how long have the Yankees, Mets, and Dodgers been doing their own thing? On Yes Network.
The Doyers are looking at 13, 14 years.
Yep.
Yes Network and the Mets, whatever it's called, they've been around for more than 20.
Exactly. And so they have
they're in massive markets.
And so the leg up on the competition, I mean, we're talking about TV stations dealing with the deal factors and the production factors and all that in New York and LA for the last 13 and 20 years respectively, or 20 years and 13 years respectively, excuse me. And with that market size and compared to places like Pittsburgh and St. Louis and Tampa Bay, who now have to completely rework everything they've been doing on that side of things, and they don't have the market size to leverage big money. And so 10 years from now, when we're talking about team ownerships who've been taking it on the chin and haven't been having to cut payroll and different things like that because they don't have the TV money anymore, what's free agency going to look like in 2030 between the Yankees, Mets, Dodgers, and everybody else?
Well, and to Lex Luthor's point, and Lex goes on to add, my point is that it's hard to get people to the ballpark if the Cardinals are playing the Reds, Brewers, Pirates, Rockies, Marlins, etc. I know I'd rather save money for the Dodgers or Mets to come. Good point. Now, those fans in those cities are feeling the exact same way. So if you're a fan in Cincinnati, Cardinals don't have as many stars. Brewers don't. Pirates don't. Rockies don't. Marlins don't. So you aren't going to, their fans like you in St. Louis aren't going to their ballpark. And I've made this point before, and I'll make it again. The average person that walks through the gates at the ballpark at Busch Stadium spends about $50. In 2022, the Cardinals drew 3.3 million fans. This year, they're on pace to draw about 2.3 million fans. That's $50 million from ticket revenue that the Cardinals had in 2022 that they aren't going to have in 2025. And the numbers bear that out. If you go and look at the attendance of 2022, it was 3.3. They're on pace for the 2.3 this year. So if you had $50 million to spend 3 years ago that you don't have now, what's it going to affect? Your ability to keep or get those stars.
And one thing, another thing, the conversation they're having in the chat is about kind of the marketability of stars and things like that. I know you referenced that as well. A lot of the conversations around that is just talking about how Major League Baseball doesn't market their stars good enough anymore, or does baseball kind of like tamp down the ability to be a star? And my question is has baseball lost an ability to produce stars, or do they simply produce stars at a commiserate level of where they are now in the sports world compared to where they were relative to the NFL in the 90s?
Okay, here's what I believe. I believe that Major League Baseball has, in many cases, lost the ability to develop American stars.
Okay.
Who are the biggest stars going right now? Obviously, you have Aaron Judge. But when he's healthy, it's Ronald Acuna, it's Yamamoto, it's Shohei Ohtani. There's so many people coming, not only now from Latin America, but from Asia as well, that the ability to go and compete for those players, you have to spend money in those places to get those players. You don't necessarily have to spend money on the players themselves. Many of them are posted, but you have to be able to evaluate the players overseas and get them onto your teams. And the Dodgers are doing a great job of that. The Mets have Kodai Senga. The Cubs have Suzuki. There are so many really good young players from overseas that have joined Major League Baseball. And so I think those players are being developed. And the Cardinals are just, look at the Fernando Tatis situation. They looked at him 18 times in their camp in the Dominican and didn't evaluate him as a great player.
Lex Luthor says football and basketball are more individualistic sports, so are able to generate stars easier. Mahomes or Wembanyama affect their teams more than any MLB player. I just got to disagree with that on the face of, you're right with quarterbacks, and you're undoubtedly right about the NBA, but I just think that the ability to isolate the pitcher-batter moments in baseball has always been one of its historical strengths, with the ability to market moments. It's why I think baseball has always been, one of the, America's past haven't been so great with broadcasting, is because you isolate moments between these two human beings that you don't get in either football or basketball as much. And so I disagree with Lex Luthor a little bit there.
Well, and here's another part. The money in those sports is immediate. You can be a one and done in basketball and still get a ton of money. You can get NIL money to come to the school and then make a ton of money in the NBA. Football, that's where the real NIL money is. Even if you're playing on the offensive line or if you're playing linebacker, you can get a ton of NIL money because it is a competitive marketplace. Not that players in baseball, college players, aren't getting any NIL money, but they aren't getting the kind of money that those football and basketball players are. And then you get drafted into baseball and you have to spend a few years in the minors, where you go to the NBA or the NFL, you're getting money immediately. So I think the financial windfall available to young players is another reason that the other sports are getting more athletes now, and why we're seeing more international athletes, a more globalized ecosystem in baseball than the other sports.
Bach's baseball talent is watered down compared to 20 years ago. Plus, talent seems to go to only a few picked places. Teams don't have their own stars they once had. I guess my question is this, because I don't necessarily think he's wrong, but I guess it is, if Kirby Puckett was playing for the Twins in 2016, would he have been as big of a name? Would he have been as big of a name as he was in the time frame when he did play?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because I guess do you agree that baseball talent's been watered down?
I think the sport's been watered down. I don't think it's necessarily the talent. I think it's the way the talent is utilized, with the three true outcomes and everybody wanting, the pitchers want to strike out and hitters don't care about striking out. It's just a different, less entertaining sport. Hey, if you want to watch the Cardinals this weekend, maybe not tonight on Apple, but they'll probably find Apple for you over at the Fenton Bar and Grill. It's only 2 minutes away from the soccer park in Fenton. And if you're looking for a great place to have a great meal today or this weekend, stop by the Fenton Bar and Grill. They'll have all the Cardinal games on. If you want to watch hockey, you want to watch basketball, you can do it at the Fenton Bar and Grill. And I'm going to tell you about what they've got on Mondays coming up in a moment. But if you've never had their trashed wings, this is the time to see what the hype is about. Fenton Bar and Grill is the place to go for fantastic wings, luscious burgers, amazing salads, and tasty wraps. I had a great time at the Fenton Bar and Grill yesterday. Kevin came by. He had heard me on the show saying I was going to be there for lunch, and he came by to say hi. And Brett and his wife, Michelle, were there, and they said hi. They said, hey, we came because you said you love this place, and we were glad to see you out there. And it was a great time. It's a great time at the Fenton Bar and Grill all the time, because it is the dive with a vibe, and the servers are going to treat you great. Say hi to Megan and Jamie and Candy and Peyton. Casey is there on Tuesdays, and you'll love the staff out there. And on Mondays, you get the opportunity to try their trash wings if you never have. 10 for $10 Mondays from 5 to 9, dine in only. Enjoy ice cold domestic bottles of beer for $2 as well at Fenton Bar and Grill. Say hi to the 2024 Maitre d' of the Year, Chuck. He's the manager over there. You're going to have a great time. It is the dive with a vibe. It's the Fenton Bar and Grill, and tell him Randy sent you. All right, and now we are going to head to the screen where the one, the only Bernard J. Mikolas is standing by. Hi, Bernie. How you doing?
I'm doing good. You made me hungry, though, there, Randy Karraker. You made me hungry.
That's my job. I hope I did.
Yeah, you did, man. So yeah, I'm gonna have to wander my way over there. It sounds great, and the photos of the food look great. Randy, luscious. I've always said, I used to tease you at KMOX when we worked together, and this is going to be an old person's reference, so I apologize to our kids out there. But way back when, when I was a kid growing up in the 60s, there was a personality named Arthur Godfrey. It means nothing, but he had the most soothing, convincing voice when he would be pitching a product. And you'd listen to that and you're like, well, this guy is just such a gentleman. He's such a
You got us, Bernie?
Yeah, we lost your audio, Bernie. I'm not sure what happened there.
We have connection issues.
Yeah, it looks like we're having a little bit of a connection issue. That's not.
We'll fix that.
We were rolling. What happened?
We'll have to reconnect with.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to reconnect with Bernie. That's an unfortunate happening there because we were rolling with Bernie. He's gonna reconnect here with us.
Yeah, he'll reconnect.
As we were talking.
While he's reconnecting, we will tell you about a couple of things. Number one, yesterday we gave away some tickets to the Cardinals this weekend. A viewer by the name of Steve Barnum won 2 tickets to tomorrow's Cardinals game against Arizona. All he had to do was be a subscriber to our newsletter, and there are lots more giveaways to come. It's free to subscribe, and you can read all of Bernie's great work at sportshubstl.com. You get the newsletter right into your email box, though, and starting Tuesday, you can listen to this very show wherever you get your podcasts, audio uploaded once the show ends every single day. So if you want to go to your Apple Podcast, whatever podcast platform you want to go to, you can, and you can hear the Randy Karraker Show. So we hope that you'll do that. And again, sign up to be a subscriber to the newsletter at sportshubstl.com. All right. Have we solved our issues here?
We hope so. Bernie is back. We'll reconnect, and that's not the right bar. There we go. Here we go. Bernie, can you hear us?
You know what happened? I fess up to my stupid ways. I was doing the John Madden thing and waving my hands and hit a microphone cord, and the whole thing just went kaput. So anyway, I gotta finish this lousy Arthur Godfrey story because the kids don't know who he is. Anyway, great pitch man in the 60s. And you'd hear him and just this soothing, calm voice, and he was very convincing because you could tell he was a gentleman who would never ever pitch to his audience products or services that would be beneath his standards. And I used to tell Karraker at KMOX, I'm like, dude, you are Arthur Godfrey, and once again, I just heard you in your vintage classic Arthur Godfrey style. So that's a skill and you're good at it.
That is a very high compliment, Bernard, and I thank you. Is that a Northwestern cap that you're wearing?
No, it's a Navy cap.
Navy. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's easy to confuse things, but I thought since the beginning, start of Memorial Day weekend, it's just a small gesture I could even put on an Army cap as well, but I got one around here. But it's always good to just remember what it's supposed to be all about. And I had a dear childhood friend, high school friend, who was a Navy lacrosse player and a graduate of the Naval Academy who lost his life in the first Gulf War. So I don't know, when this time rolls around every year, I make sure to have a Navy cap on and to honor my late friend and all other members, men and women in the military that have sacrificed.
That is wonderful. And along those lines, we hope that if you're out and about and you're shopping for your Memorial Day barbecue, go to Schnucks and round up at the register to benefit Folds of Honor. Those people like Bernie's friend who lost his life in the line of duty. What Folds of Honor does is provide scholarships for the spouses and children of those that lose their lives in the line of duty and first responders as well. And if you round up at the registry, you can contribute to those scholarships. So we hope you'll do it. And Bernie, thank you very much for reminding us of the
Sure.
importance of our military
Sure.
and our first responders.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, let's get to the Cardinals. And number one, we were talking earlier, this should be, if the statistics bear out, a pretty high scoring and entertaining series. The Diamondbacks score a lot of runs, and they don't they hit the ball, but they don't pitch very well. So we should see some pretty entertaining baseball.
I think so. And I think the Cardinals, listen, they've been weird offensively this year because they have all these eruptions where they score 8 runs, 9 runs, 10 runs. But they also have these games where they score 1 run. Like they've lost 6 games this month And in 5 of the 6 losses, they've scored exactly 1 run. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. So I'm hoping to see the Cardinals, after losing the game Wednesday 5-1, the offense was kind of dormant. Yeah, I'm looking for them to kind of just come out of the gate and against the Diamondbacks and put up a bunch of runs this weekend. And we know that the batting coach, Brant Brown, will have him prepared. He does a great job scouting opponents. He had a full day off to dig into the Arizona Diamondbacks. So I'm looking forward to this. And Randy, I wanted to say something because I was listening towards the end of you guys talking about the state of baseball. And I just wanted to throw this in. This is one of the reasons why I really enjoy watching this Cardinals team, because even though they don't steal a lot of bases, and it's because they just don't have enough players who are good at it. They still play a style that, in effect, goes against the way the modern game, the current game, is being played. In other words, do they rely on home runs to win? No, but they'll hit you a lot of doubles and run like mad. You know, they'll score from first to home on doubles. They go first to third. They go second to home. I love doubles. And so we're a nation that, especially the young people, are obsessed with home runs. Give me a team that is going to hit a lot of doubles, and the Cardinals do that. They play great defense. In St. Louis, that's almost a mandatory requirement for a Cardinals team. You better play great defense, and this one does. You look at their pitchers, even the bullpen guys, except for Helsley. The Cardinals don't strike out hitters. They have an overall 19% strikeout rate. But the difference is they have the good defense behind them, and they know we have a really good defense behind them, and we just have to make good pitches. We just have to hit our spots. We just have to get them to slap the ball on the ground, especially to the left side. And if they hit the ball in the air, our outfielders will go get it because they cover a ton of space. So I like this team because it pitches. Their guys don't worry about, I threw 98 and I'm all excited. And then the next inning they're throwing 98 and it's going like 450 feet. These guys know how to pitch. They're like Jeff Suppan. No one ever looked at Jeff Suppan and said, wow, this guy, he's just an immense talent. He knew how to make pitches, and the Cardinals know how to make pitches, and their hitters know how to take good at bats, move runners over, play fundamental ball. They really do go against the grain. And I really appreciate that about them. They make some stuff happen, even if it's not along the lines of your favorite thing, Mr. Karraker, stolen bases.
No,
everything else.
I think for 2025, with where we are, Busch Stadium is this season 23rd in home runs. There have been 22 ballparks where more home runs have been hit than Busch Stadium. So what you're talking about, it's hard to hit the ball out of the ballpark, but you can hit it hard, keep it in the ballpark, and hit doubles. I've always thought that, like in San Diego, they spent all that money on all those home run hitters, and what they have to do finally, they had to bring in the fences to allow that ballpark to contain things. I always thought that San Diego City Field, those were teams that should have signed doubles hitters that get on base, and then, like you're talking about with the pitching too, allow the pitchers to take advantage of the size of the ballpark and the difficulty of hitting home runs in that ballpark. And I think the Cardinals have done a pretty good job. I don't know if it's intentional because they're all young players, but certainly Ollie and the staff are setting things up to play to the strengths of the team are in line with what the ballpark allows. That's exactly right. And if I could, offer a couple other things here, the Cardinals don't hit a lot of home runs, but they come out ahead in the home run derby because their pitchers don't give up home runs. So the Cardinals actually win that home run tally. Their pitchers as a group have the second lowest home run rate in the majors allowed, and the bullpen's number 1. The other thing is, I love this one. Okay, they hit a lot of ground balls, and granted, their pitchers give up a lot of ground balls. I said third highest ground ball rate in the majors, and so I'm one of the people that would say, well, there's batted ball luck. So sometimes, the ball's in place so much that can really work against you, whatever. But I do think this is part of the plan, because this is not a coincidence that, to me,
They had the highest ground ball, third highest ground ball rate in the majors. Over half the ground balls have been hit to the left side of the Cardinals infield. Oh, wow. In other words, they spot their pitches so well. They can get a guy to hit ground balls, but not only get him to hit ground balls, but get him to hit ground balls to their two best infielders, Arenado and Wynn. And when guys on the other side hit a ground ball to the left side, you know what their batting average is? It's 143. Because Arenado and Wynn are getting everything. And then one other note about the hitting. Randy, I know you love this because I love it. Going into that Detroit game, the Cardinals led the majors in opposite field hits.
Wow.
So again, so to man, I'm honoring you. I'm getting back to your point where everyone's up there trying to just pull home runs. You got to pull the ball. You got to hit home runs. These guys are like, how the hell with that? We're not a great home run team. Oh, some of our big guys will bust it loose. Sure. But if we have a chance to plate some runs, man, and they're going to play their defense a certain way, we're going to go opposite field. Like real men hit to the opposite field, right?
Yeah,
real men do not have to try to pull the ball every damn time they swing a bat, right?
Yeah, and by the way, just one other thing here. I kind of think that's the reason that we're seeing less of Gorman than other guys, because I don't think Nolan Gorman has made that adjustment yet.
No, he's making really good adjustments with his plate discipline, but the results aren't there. And see, we see Alec Burleson hit to the opposite field. We see, Donovan's been doing that since he came to the majors. And we see Mason Wynn hit to the opposite field. I mean, all these guys, like Herrera, look at how many, a few of his doubles and his one home run has been opposite field, So they're very pragmatic in their approach. And I do think Ali and the coaches deserve a lot of credit. It's just the way I see it, because I did a deep dive on some of the things they're doing with their pitching, and in a way that just completely offsets their weakness in terms of strikeouts. And I actually did a video on that yesterday that people can watch at sportshubstl.com if they want, because I unearthed some really good stuff on that.
Well, I actually kind of want to dive into that, because that actually touches on a conversation we were having earlier in the show, Bernie, because we were talking about Matthew Liberatore, and we were talking about the ceiling he has, because, to your point, alongside the rest of the Cardinals, his strikeout rate is good this year. It's 8 per 9 right now, but that there's a gap between him at 8 per 9 and those elite number ones that are at 10 plus per 9. And so I figured my hypothesis was that if he is going to be the number one, there's going to have to be other numbers that raise his game if he's not going to have that elite strikeout percentage. So I guess overall, not just with Matthew Liberatore, overall, what are the Cardinals doing that is mitigating those lower strikeout numbers?
They get a lot of ground balls because they feed ground balls to their fielders, right? They also keep the ball in the ballpark. By one of the reasons they do that is they don't pitch to the pull side. They focus on pitching away from the pull side, and so when hitters do try to pull pitches that aren't in their power zone, they'll make harmless outs, and they'll make they'll get or they'll even yank ground balls to Arenado or Mason Wynn. The other thing they do is, they don't walk people either. They have one of the lowest walk rates. The Cardinals pitchers as a group, their control this season is outstanding. It's outstanding. In fact, there's a fancy pants stat that I'll just tell you about it's no gobbledygook. It's easy to understand. Like if you look at stuff, you know how you say about pitchers, oh, that guy's really got really good stuff. Well, there, some of the nerds, and I say that with the respect, they came up with ways to measure that. And in terms of stuff, the Cardinals pitching staff's like 27th in the majors, right? But where they're third or fourth best in the majors is location. Like, in other words, they're trying to work a guy, and it's like they get their scouting reports and say, okay, you got to pitch this guy outside. Or you got to pitch this guy high and get him to chase, right? Or don't throw this guy inside. Well, the Cardinals are locating pitches, their staff, better than all but like 3 teams in the majors. See, this stuff and what it all adds up, they all sound like minor things, but when you put it all together, low walk rate, high ground ball rate, hitting their spots, great location, putting their defense to work. You add all of that up and you have, as I said in the video, you have an old school approach to pitching. Mm-hmm. And it can work if you have the right, you have smart pitchers who can locate and take advantage of their defense. As for Liberatore, his strikeout rate is fine. You know what I love about Liberatore? He doesn't walk anybody. See, that's the other thing. See, we all obsess over strikeout rate. But what's the point of having a high strikeout rate when you're walking 11% of the hitters? Yep. So Liberatore's got one of the best strikeout walk ratios in Major League Baseball, which means he's controlling the things he can control, and he's not allowing home runs either. He's got one of the lowest home run rates allowed in baseball. And so that gets us to a gobbledygook stat. I'm doing this for Karraker, but don't hate me, Randy.
I like gobbledygook stats.
But fielding independent ERA is important. It tells us something because it's based on what a pitcher can control. You take the defense out of it, right? Mm-hmm. Matthew Liberatore this season has got a better fielding independent ERA than Paul Skeens, than Max Fried, than Garrett Crotchet or whatever his name is. I always say Crotchet, but whatever his name is. He's got a better fielding independent ERA than some of the great pitchers in the game. And people say, well, that can't be true. It's true. The stuff that a pitcher can control, he's got a better fielding independent ERA than Skeens and Max Fried. I don't care. I don't care. Rock, I love you, but I don't care if he's not striking out 27% or something. He's a great pitch.
For me, it wasn't. I criticizing his numbers or his season this year. The conversation was a projection about if Matthew Liberatore can be that number 1 level shove in October pitcher. And my point was just that the overwhelming majority of those guys have that in their arsenal. And I was just the entire question was, if he doesn't have that ceiling as a strikeout pitcher, can he fill it in? And to your point, everything you said about the Cardinals, he does well, and he does it at one of the highest rates in Major League Baseball.
And that's why I was really frustrated watching Wednesday's game, because I had done the research on all this stuff, and I know for the Cardinals pitching staff to succeed without had this big high strikeout rate. You can't stay there, and you can't fiddle around and nibble around and avoid challenging hitters. Andre Palante walked 4 Tigers, and I think 2 of them scored. 3 of them might have scored. And because look, they all have bad days at the office. Don't get me wrong, but the Cardinals have to be so fine in their approach and what they do, that when you have a starting pitcher walking people way too much, it sort of blows up the whole point of this. So I was doing the thing, the grumpy old man thing. I wasn't hollering at clouds, but I was hollering at my TV set. I was like, will you throw some damn strikes, Palante? Or if not, you're going to pay for it. And he paid for it.
Yep.
So, Bernie, let's talk about the first place Cubs. And I thought the Cubs, before the season, I thought that they would win the division. I didn't think that once Steele got hurt that they would be as proficient as they are. I also didn't think that Carson Kelly would be leading them in OPS and OPS plus. At the age of 30, right. Carson Kelly has turned into Johnny Bench.
I know, and I always liked him, though. Class act, but he's really put it together. The Cubs are interesting. They played the toughest schedule up until recently. They played the toughest schedule in baseball, and they had played a bunch of games against great teams. And so I was impressed by how they handled that. They won 7 out of their last 9, but we're talking about all 9 games are against either the White Sox or the Marlins. So I would hope they would go 7-2, which they did. The interesting thing to me about them is that, because we just spent a lot of time talking about Cardinals pitching, the Cardinals, I like to use win probability added because it sounds stupid, but it's just a quick snapshot. All right, does this pitcher help you to win, or is this pitcher going to make it more likely that you lose, right? The Cardinals have a better win probability added overall than the Cubs pitchers. They have a higher WPA than the Cubs starters, and they have a much higher WPA than the Cubs bullpen. So the Cardinals are out pitching the Cubs. The Cardinals, however, even though the Cardinals are better this year offensively, they're having too many low-scoring games where they score 1 run or no runs. It's happened 13 times this year. And the Cubs don't do that. The Cubs limit those low-scoring games. So their offense is more consistent. But the Cardinals, if the pitching continues this way, the Cardinals can hang with the Cubs. I don't know that they can score with the Cubs. But it's going to be interesting because they've gotten our attention with this. And this is a good time for me to point out something, too. For all the people that shriek all the time about how terrible Ali Marmol is, and they lost the game the other day, and I was watching Schaaf and Joe Roderick, and you had people, Marmol's a terrible manager. That's why they lost the game and all this other stuff. Since the start of last season, Craig Counsell has won 3 more games than Oliver Marmol. And by the end of this season, the Cubs will have spent $110 million more than the Cardinals, who are in transition, as opposed to the Cubs, a team that's like, well, we're going for it. We're going to go trade for Kyle Tucker. At the end of the season, to this point right now, Craig Counsell's operation has outspent Ali Marmol's operation by about $60 million. Craig Counsell, considered the genius manager, one of the great managers of his time. He's at a place where they're throwing money around, right? And where they spent like $7 or $8 or $9 million on free agents this past offseason to fix their bullpen, except the bullpen's terrible. 3 more wins than Ali Marmol, and yet Counsell is a genius and Marmol is the village idiot or something. At some point, I hope Cardinals fans who are not the smart percentage of fans, right? Like Cardinals have a lot of smart fans, but the people who aren't smart, at some point, I hope they just kind of start to pay attention. If Marmol is so bad with a team that's got every disadvantage compared to the Cubs, why, until earlier this week, in effect, he had matched Craig Counsell's win total since the start of last year? Does anybody want to tell me that? How does that happen with a terrible manager on a team that is in a 2-year transition and a team that lost 91 games 2 years ago? How does that happen if he's such a horrible manager?
I mean, Bernie, Craig Counsell's helping a franchise recover from biblical losses. You got to cut him a little slack. Come on.
I don't know. I think they paid him $8 million a year for a reason, because they thought he was great and he would make a difference maker. You know what? He will. I think he's a good manager. But I just find it interesting that Ali Marmol's hanging with him since Counsell went to Chicago. Ali Marmol's hanging with him in terms of wins, and that shouldn't be happening.
No, no doubt about it. And I'll be intrigued to see once these two teams play against each other, because I think the most salient point here is that the Cubs, I mean, they still got Ian Happ, they still got Horner, they've got all that money tied up in Dansby Swanson. They went and made the trade for Kyle Tucker. That's a veteran team that should be prepped to win, right? And the Cardinals the Cardinals admittedly aren't right now preparing to win in 2025. Yet you're, like you say, the Cardinals are hanging with them.
And I just think it's really funny. And the other thing is, I'll save some other Ali Marmol stuff. And by the way, people say, well, Bernie, you criticize. Yeah, I do. See, the difference between, you can criticize a manager for screwing this or that up or not playing the right players. Hopefully you would do that responsibly rather than trying to score fake cowboy tough guy points on X, right? Which is basically, you want to show everyone how freaking stupid you are, but you're going to make a lot of noise, right? But it's a situation where, I'm just always fascinated by the way we quickly judge a manager. Like, I think it's perfectly reasonable to criticize Ollie Marmol, like, for example, like Mason Wynn batting leadoff last season and his on base percentage was under 300. It was totally ridiculous. Things like that. But that doesn't mean he's the worst manager who ever lived. They all screw some things up. And I think Ollie Marmol, with the way he ran the bullpen last year, the way he ran the bullpen after it blew up and he put it back together this year. They've been good in one-run games. I mean, I think he's done a lot of things well, although there are some things that he does that does in fact drive me a little bonkers. But again, there's a difference between pointing out those things, but also recognizing what he's doing well. But the problem with the fake tough guys on X is that if he makes a mistake in a game, that even reasonable people would say, yeah, I think he screwed up there. They can't leave it at that. It becomes, he's the worst manager the Cardinals have ever had. They can't just like specifically identify things without brandish, like stomping on him and saying he's the worst manager who ever lived. Just why don't you just evaluate the entire performance?
Bernie, a couple of more things. Number one, kind of along those lines, but not totally. But Ollie did take some criticism the other night for not bringing in Helsley, which I didn't understand. And he brought in Kyle Leahy, who's been fabulous.
Right.
When you watch Kyle Leahy pitch with his 6 pitches, do you think that his future is in the rotation or in the bullpen?
I asked Ollie that on Gas House Gang on KMOX because we do that every Tuesday. I asked him that specific. Well, and actually, Dusty Blake was part of that show, and I asked Dusty. I said, "Do you think he's given his incredible arsenal of pitches and the fact that there's no splits, like he gets left-handers out as well as he does right-handers out, and he keeps the ball in the ballpark. He does so many things well. Does he have a future in the rotation, or could he be your closer?" And he really avoided the question, and I understand why, because they're not going to say, "Oh yeah, we're hoping we're going to put him in the rotation next year." Not going to say that, right? But you know what? He gives them a lot of leeway to make decisions where they could use him in 3 different roles. The one he has now, or they could move him to the rotation, or they could put him at the back end of games and save opportunities. I mean, that's a really good pitcher to have, where you can deploy him in that many ways.
Yeah, he's terrific. And then last thing, and I know that you had backed off the barbecuing, but this is a barbecue weekend, Bernard. So do you got anything going here?
Randy, I'm ashamed to admit to you, my friend, you and I have talked barbecue for so many years. I've asked you for advice. We've exchanged recipes. I have been a pitiful, pathetic barbecue dropout guy. I don't even know why. And I keep saying, I got 3 I have 3 things in my garage. I have a big green egg. I have a Weber. Yeah, that's it too. And we have one of those little Webers where you can just put it on your deck and, do something real quick. And I keep talking about, well, I'm going to get a Traeger. I even asked you, do you like your Traeger? But
love it.
See, I've developed a phobia because I've taken such a long absence from barbecuing. It's like I've lost my confidence. I had some bad experiences towards the end where routine things I was screwing up. And I'm like, it's like a pitcher who can't throw strikes. I mean, I became the Steve Blass of barbecue.
I was going to phrase it more like a bad hitter who's in a rough spot. You're going to have to go through some bad cuts, Bernie. That's the fact of the matter is you're going to have to work through some bad cuts, and eventually you'll get things right, and the timing and the sense of temperature and those things will come right back to you. But you're going to have to ruin a couple pork butts, I think.
I lost my confidence. So what I'm going to do is then when Randy Karraker, barbecues from now on, I'm going to invade his home and watch him work his craft.
So
because Randy Karraker is really good at this. Yeah.
So Bernie, our mutual friend Mike Johnson from Sugar Fire, on the TV show on Matrix Midwest, we're taking over Channel 4's morning show on Monday. So we'll be on from 9 to 10. And Mike Johnson from Sugar Fire is coming in. We've got a kitchen set up, and Mike is going to show us how to do the perfect brisket on the smoker, how to smoke a perfect brisket. So I'm looking forward to that.
I will absolutely, if I'm not watching it live, I will make sure it's set up to record. Thanks for letting me know that. He's great. So anyway, Thank you, Randy. But it's always great talking to you guys. I love doing this every Friday and try to have some fun with it. So thank you. Thanks for having me part of your show.
No, love it. And by the way, we all have a mutual friend at 101, Mike Ryder. Happy birthday to Mike Ryder.
Happy birthday, 40. Ryder.
40.
Mike Ryder, class act, man. I missed working with that guy. And you know what? And shame on me because I haven't stayed in touch with him. But no, Mike Ryder's awesome. Happy birthday, Mike.
Absolutely. Bernie, have a great weekend. Happy holiday. And we will talk to you next week.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
See you, brother.
Thanks, Bern.
That is the great Bernie Miklasz here on the Randy Karraker Show on Sports Hub STL. And we are presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. And you need to know about DraftKings Pick 6 because there's some great baseball things that you need to do over-unders on for this weekend. It's a great weekend to have the fun with DraftKings Pick 6. And you can do it right here in Missouri if you want. You don't have to cross the river. You can do it in California or Texas or Georgia, more states. And all you need to do is pick from 2 to 6 players, and you can set up yourself a little parlay. Is a player going to be higher or lower for a particular statistic? It's that simple. And if you know what you're doing, you can do really well. Cash in your knowledge, and you can do really well with DraftKings Pick 6. Now, if you're a new player, all you need to do is spend $5 on your first entry, and you'll get $50 in Pick 6 credits from DraftKings Pick 6. But I think Matthew is putting together a little Pick 6 right now.
Yeah, because I'm going off the fact that I feel like, I'm not saying he's going to get blown up. I just don't think we're going to get another mow down situation from our boy Miles Mikolas.
Okay.
So I'm trying to think which Diamondbacks hitters I want to get for a couple of hits and runs. I think Gabby Moreno.
Give me number 7.
Okay, we're gonna go with Mr. Number 7. Where the heck?
Corbin Burns. Corbin Carroll.
Corbin Burns. Where the heck's Corbin Carroll? Corbin Carroll. We can get an actual 1.3x boost on more than 1.5 hits for Corbin Carroll. I like that one. I'm also gonna take more than 1.5 hits, runs, and RBI for our boy Gabby Moreno. And then I'm going to tie that with a Cardinal. What's a Cardinal who's going to have a big game tonight? I'm feeling Victor Scott, more than 1.5 total bases from hits. That also gives me a 1.6x boost. So right now, with Corbin Carroll, more than 1.5 hits, Gabby Moreno, more than 1.5 hits, runs, and RBI, and Victor Scott, more than 1.5 total bases. It's going to be a high scoring series, what we're calling for. I'm going to get 10.4x on my original wager on today's Pick 6.
I like that a lot. And I am going to go with my choice today of Kyle Schwarber to hit a home run in Sacramento against the Athletics. And then I'm going to go, I'm going to do this. I don't like what Clayton Kershaw is bringing to the table anymore. I'm going to go with Francisco Lindor to come up with 2 total bases, more than 1.5 total bases against Kershaw and the Doyers. So there's mine. I've got Schwarber to hit a home run, and I've got Francisco Lindor for 2, actually more than 1.5 total bases against Kershaw and the Dodgers. DraftKings Pick 6. Download the app today. Use that promo code STL Sports and get going with the fun this weekend. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, we're going to get to college football in a moment, but Mason Windu has an interesting chat here. He says, Cardinals have to explore Leahy as a starter in the offseason. It would be malpractice if they don't at least kick the tires on it. I think this is a 2-pronged thing. Number one, where is Ryan Helsley in 2026? If Helsley isn't here, I think Leahy is your best and most logical choice to close. The other end of this is your starting rotation. Gray is going to be here. Liberatore is going to be here. You think Palante is going to be here. You're looking at McGreevy. You're looking at Matthews. So you definitely, if Helsley is here, you have Leahy in that competition. But if you have those 5 And then you're looking at a Tekoa Roby maybe as another starting possibility. If Helsley isn't here, I think Kyle Leahy becomes my closer.
I thought Gordon Graceffo was going to become the closer.
I don't think that he is as accomplished as a relief pitcher yet as Kyle Leahy is.
No doubt about that. I guess are you okay with the plan for Graceffo just being essentially the Leahy role?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take my chances with that.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I'm cool with either one. When you have a guy with that much pitch quality and clearly he mows down lefties in a beautiful way. To Bernie's point, it's not like he's getting beat up by righties. It's not like his splits are bad. A lot of the other numbers really positive for Kyle Leahy. Yeah, I think Mason Windu has a good point here. Give him a chance next year, unless, to your point, the plan is for guys like Matthews and such to already get the call.
Yeah.
Which in that case, I like the idea of keeping a guy like Kyle Leahy in the role you have him now, where he can be so useful.
Can we all agree that no Mikolas, no Mats, no Fetty in 2026?
Yes, exactly,
right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was counting out.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. College football changed the rules yesterday, 1 year into their new playoff format, and I like this. So they're going to have straight seeding rather than the champions of lesser conferences. I know this goes against what I said about pro football, but pro football and college football are different. I think we can all agree. Because we know going into every single season that the SEC and the Big Ten are going to be better than the Big 12 and the ACC. That's just a fact. It's a fact of life. So rather than having the byes go to the top 4 ranked conference champions, now it's going to the top 4 seeded teams, which, oh, by the way, includes Notre Dame. Notre Dame was ineligible before to be a team that got a bye. We should point out that last year, every team that got a bye lost their first game. So the selection committee's top 4 teams are going to get a first-round bye, and then the 5 highest-ranked conference champions will still be guaranteed spots in the 12-team field. I think that this is the way they should have done it off the bat, because in football, you have flexibility in regards to what a division is going to be on a year-to-year basis. But since Nebraska and Colorado left the Big 12, and since Missouri and Texas A&M left for the SEC, there's no doubt that the Big 10 and the SEC have been the dominant conferences, top to bottom, over the Big 12 and the ACC.
They only got more stark last year. Yeah, I mean, both those conferences re-upped with more legacy programs outside of their geographic area, and it got even more stark. 2 things. One, yesterday you said you called yourselves a division purist. This is conference. So it's completely different. Completely different. Yeah. No one can hold you to that. Completely different. My second thing is I couldn't help, and this is just my bias now against Notre Dame. My first thought was just so they now get another reason to never have to join a conference, which annoys the hell out of me.
Well, but they are still, and it's amazing when you have the Ohio States and the Texases of the world, but apples to apples. Look what happened when Texas started their own network, and for all practical purposes,
they broke college football.
Yeah, NBC is Notre Dame's. That's their own network.
I just wanted to be pointed out that when Texas started their own network, they broke college sports.
Yeah,
but everything now, Texas's fault.
Yep. Good call. I think, with all due respect to Texas, I think the only real true national brand in college football is Notre Dame.
Damn. You don't think Ohio State's a national brand?
I don't think that if Ohio State and Nebraska or Notre Dame traded places, I don't think that Ohio State would sustain on NBC, having all their home games. I don't think that would be as valuable as Notre Dame.
That's very interesting. I don't have an opinion on that take, but I would really like to know what Charlie Marlowe's opinion on that take would be.
Well, and I'm not saying they're not a national brand. I'm just saying that there's only, in my opinion, only one football program that can sustain by themselves being the only school on a network, which they were for years and years and years, and clearly made money and were very important to NBC. I don't know that if any other school, like at one point, BYU tried to go out on their own, right? Yeah. And it didn't work out very well. Different animal altogether. But I just don't think that there's another one out there. Notre Dame, even when I was a kid, Notre Dame games were shown on tape delay on Sunday mornings.
Could 90s Miami have pulled it off?
Well, I'm maybe they could have, but I'm talking about from 1920 to now.
Yeah, no doubt. I was just
there are various schools.
Give me a thought
because
process.
When you have that window, that you could be, and maybe Ohio State right now could, but there's people that grow up with their parents being Notre Dame fans that just stay Notre Dame fans forever all across the nation. Well, I mean, all four corners of the country, and then here in the Midwest, obviously. And I just don't know that there's another program that I think the closest one would probably be Texas, and I don't think they could do it.
Well, no other fan base has the passive fan base of Notre Dame, which is I didn't go to any college, but I am Catholic.
Bingo.
I'll just root for Notre Dame. Like no other sport, no other team in America has a passive fan base of people connected to something completely away from sports.
And because of that, if you're the college football committee, you want to open every crack available to get Notre Dame into your playoff. Now, do you really want them to have a bye? Because you'd like them to be on as much as possible, right? You'd like to have multiple.
That's a really good point.
Notre Dame
games.
About that. But if they get a bye, so be it.
This eliminates the pressure from that was on Notre Dame with the old format to
be number 5.
Yes, to be number 5 and have a way to get in every year. This now clears the way for them to get in. They just got to be good, which is how it should work. Real American Intelligence says, I would argue that Notre Dame broke college sports. Listen, I will listen to that argument all day long, and ironically, twice on Sunday. So let me hear it. I just want to know what it is. I want to know what his argument is that Notre Dame broke.
Here's the thing:
sports.
Notre Dame has never changed anything. They've always been
they are. And that's my thing is I am very intrigued to know what this argument is.
Maybe the world around them changed, but Notre Dame, like I said, when I was a kid, Lindsey Nelson would voice Notre Dame highlights, and there'd be an hour every Sunday morning.
That's amazing.
Now let's move to further action. Notre Dame's always been a singular entity in college football that nobody else has been.
When did they put it on Sunday morning?
It's like 9 a.m.
Oh, I feel like that's right in the pocket. I feel like you're going to be missing some of your core fans.
Oh yeah, well, but not
like
me.
You got to go at either like 7 a.m. or like afternoon. You're missing a core base of your fan base by putting it at 9 a.m. on Sunday.
Well. One other note that we need to make here is last year Boise State, and this is true. They got a bye. They were a number 3 seed, but they were number 9 in the country, and they proved once they got into action against the big boys that they were not worthy of being a number 3 seed.
Yes, you mentioning that all 4 teams with byes last year lost their first game. The 1, 2, 3, 4, the teams that would have had byes this past year would have been in this format: Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Penn State. Safe to say they probably don't lose in their first games after having a bye, those teams.
Yeah, I think that's a very safe
and probably better overall.
Coaches have to learn in college now how to deal with the bye. You know, if Belichick gets a bye, he'll already know how to deal with it.
Yeah, it's true. It's a good point.
So, I don't know if he'll get a bye, but I hope that I hope we get a chance to see him, because these guys don't know how he cheats. It's going to be pretty funny.
It's unfortunate. I feel like Saban had it down pat, how to use the extra time to specialize your game plan.
Yeah. He was great. Hey, we want you to know what's going on June 1st over at Hot Shots in St. Charles, the 35th birthday of Hot Shots right here in St. Louis, the best sports bar and grill. Saturday, June 1st, they're going to have the biggest party ever, an all-day celebration with food and drinks and music and special guests. It's going to take place from noon to 6 over at the Hot Shots in St. Charles, and you're going to have some great things happening. Clydesdales are there from 2 to 4. Get your pictures took with them. Rizzuto and Ray from 105.7 The Point are going to be there from 3 to 5. You're going to have City SC players Celio Pompeo and Thomas Totland guest bartending from 4 to 6. Louis from the Blues is going to be there at 3, and Bushwhacker from the Ambush is also going to stop by. You're going to have a darts tournament, a bags tournament. You're going to have a taco eating contest that's hosted by Scott Rizzuto from the Riz Show. Hourly customer prize giveaways, and a car show is going to take place as well from noon to 4. A $25 donation to the Wonderland Cap. If you'd like to participate, only 20 entries are going to be accepted. So here's what you need to do. Know that it's all happening on Saturday, June 1st. Come early and stay late. Party like it's 1989. Full details at hotshotsnet.com. Don't miss this blowout celebration. Hot Shots turns 35, and you are invited. Pretty cool.
Oh, thank you. It's going to be a great time.
You are absolutely invited.
Woo! Sad thing.
Okay, we got a couple of things that I want to hit on here. I'd love to have you participate with this. Number one, Zach Gallen pitches tonight, okay? Zach Gallen is a guy that a lot of Cardinal fans would like to have back. If you could have one guy back on the Cardinals that they've gotten rid of, and I don't have the entire list here. I assume that Patrick Wisdom is still bouncing around somewhere. I saw that Andrew Kisner is in the minors. He had 1,000 OPS for Texas's AAA team, and I think the Giants picked him up maybe. Anyway, Andrew Kisner is still around, but you've got Gallen out there. You've got Alcantara out there. You've got Marcell Ozuna. You've got Carson Kelly with a plus 1,000 OPS. You've got Randy Arozarena. You've got Tommy Edman. You've got Harrison Bader. You've got Adolis Garcia. If you could have one guy back on the Cardinals and plug him in, who would it be?
You tell me I need to bring one of these guys to the 2025 Cardinals.
Yes.
It's the 2025 Cardinals, Randy. This answer is easy. Clearly, the way to win in baseball in St. Louis in 2025 is having as many catchers as possible. Okay. Give me the 1,000+ OPS Carson Kelly. I don't care where we play him. Just clearly as many catchers as possible on the roster, and you will win games. I can't see how it goes wrong.
That's fair. And by the way, drafted as a third baseman, if I'm not mistaken. So King Bash gives us Tommy Edman. Tommy can play everywhere.
Yeah,
and
be nice.
If you want to keep Brendan Donovan at second base, then you move Edman all over the field.
You would really be able to lean into this idea that I brought up earlier in the week of making a heavier platoon at third base, because now if you had Tommy Edman, it literally means you can put anyone almost anywhere, and it always works out. And especially to Bernie's point, we know now the Cardinals are forcing ground balls to the left side, which means if there is any idea of having to take out Nolan Arenado's back because it's struggling, you have to replace it with great defense, because clearly that's part of the equation where they're winning. And Tommy Edman would allow you to continually do that, and that would be huge.
Good point. This could be Ben, says Harrison Bader, who's with the Twins now. I mean, both Umama and Bub say, Umama says Gallen definitively, and Bub says, yeah, probably Gallen still.
It's probably Gallen is the correct answer. And then Tommy Edman's number 2, because I don't see what Bader does for this team right now.
He's not playing in front of Victor Scott.
Yeah. So I don't see that. I don't want Marcell Ozuna.
But he's a good guy. He's a good face of the franchise guy.
Yeah, and certainly Marcell Ozuna is not, so I do not want him.
He can hit.
We know that, unfortunately.
Baseballs too.
Yeah, exactly. And Arozarena is just he's pulled back a little bit from his success. So I really do think it's legitimately a 2-man race with Gallen and Edman.
See, and I think I would go with Gallen, and I know he's having a bad year, but he has been a guy that has been a proven postseason starting pitching. And by the way, we don't have an Alcantara here. It's amazing. I think,
you know what?
Well, no doubt 2 years ago we would have taken Alcantara, and I think he can still bounce back.
A bunch of his numbers are actually not terrible, a bunch of the tertiary numbers. It's just that he's getting everything's kind of going against him. I think his ERA or his strikeout or home run rate, jumped up back to kind of what it was at times in St. Louis when he was struggling at times early in his career. And so he got it down really low last year. It's back up this year. His K rate's dropped. His walk rate's up a little bit. So I think he could probably sustain it, but I'm with you on Gallen.
I didn't mention Goldie, by the way.
I mean, it's just I'm not shocked that he's having the success he's having in New York, but how long is it going to? I mean, is he going to be successful in 2026?
And would it have happened here?
Yeah, that too.
I don't think.
And it's not like Contreras is. The big thing for him was going to be are they losing defense? And they haven't lost defense. He's been playing great.
By the way, Randy Arozarena has a 762 OPS in Seattle this year, slash line of 231, 366, 396, 6 homers, 21 RBIs.
That's not bad. You mentioned Seattle. Maybe remember I wrote down a stat that I read while we were talking with Bernie that I wanted to bring up, because we were talking about the lack of home runs for this Cardinals team. So they are 11th in Major League Baseball in slugging percentage, with a .404 slugging percentage as a whole team. It's 11th in Major League Baseball. They are 19th in Major League Baseball in home runs hit. There are 9 teams that have hit more home runs than them that have lower OPSs than them. And there's not a single team that has a higher OPS than them or a higher slug percentage than them that has less home runs. They're I think 6th in the league in OPS. So it's just everything we were talking about there. Yes, they are not a power team, but they are still, to your point, hitting a lot of extra base hits for a team that isn't a power team. And we saw in 2013 that can certainly work.
Absolutely. And by the way, tonight the game will be on the radio. You can hear our buddies John Rooney and Ricky Horton. They'll be on KMOX, so you'll want to check that out tonight. Okay, one other note, and I asked Matthew about this before we came on the air today. After 23 years, there it is, 4,953 episodes. Around the Horn ends today. Max Kellerman was the first host of Around the Horn. He was replaced by Tony Reale about a year and a half in. The first show was on November 4th of 2002, and then Tony Reale took over in February of 2004. So he's been at it for 21 years. And for you, it was a big deal and kind of must-see TV. Around the Horn was never must-see TV for me, and it was just kind of background noise. Mm-hmm. And I think it was that way for a lot of people. Yeah. But that was something that was kind of your introduction to cable TV, too.
Yeah, it was formidable for me. I was always more of an Around the Horn guy than a PTI guy. I loved PTI, but there was just something about the point system and the back and forth. I obviously, people who listen here know I like debate. So it kind of played into my natural sensibilities. And I kind of remember the first time I ever really saw Around the Horn because like I've talked about here before, my family got cable when the Cardinals moved off local television, all 162 games. So in 2004 is when my family got cable. Mm-hmm. And I'd been over to friends' houses and I'd seen SportsCenter Top 10. So I was watching ESPN as soon as we got cable. But I at that point, I was a diehard NFL fan. And so I was watching a lot of NFL Network right off the bat. Mm-hmm. And so I wasn't a huge ESPN fan. So how I remember as soon as you asked me about Around the Horn, it crystallized in my brain the memory I have, which is I walked into the locker, the weight room at CBC my freshman year, and Around the Horn was on a bunch of the cameras, on a bunch of the TVs, and it was literally like one day after school. I think maybe the guy who drove my carpool had gotten detention, so we had to stay an hour after school. So I just needed to kill an hour. And so I'm in the CBC weight room, and Around the Horn comes on, and I'm like, okay. And it's just, and literally like a little child, it was just, they're different colors. Like their set was always like, light blue, yellow, orange, red. The mute button's a big thing. There's all these, graphics on the screen and stuff like that. You got Reality ticking up the scores, and it captured me immediately. And up until my junior year in high school, I was confident that I was going to, and Brendan Schaefer's not here. I hope he doesn't hear this. I was confident up until my junior year in high school that I was going to KU for architecture. And then my senior year, I started getting into writing, and my obsession with the NFL draft took over and things like that. But it's 100%. And I started watching Around the Horn every single day after I got home from school, because we hit a little bit of traffic coming out from down to the city from CBC. But by the time I got home, I was ready in front of the TV by 4:00, and I'd watch Around the Horn and the PTI, that power hour, almost every single day for the majority of the next 7 or 8 years. So through college, I never had classes that late, so we were always in the fraternity house watching Around the Horn and PTI. And it's not light to say that, like, if it doesn't capture me, and a couple other things don't happen, I don't ever make this turn into radio and broadcasting and sports kind of becoming my life. And I'm hugely bummed that the show's ending today. I loved Around the Horn. Woody Page is one of my favorite people. I love Tony Reale. The way that Tony Reale has broken down the wall between audience and host over the last few years on Instagram, on Twitter. He was a guy who started doing a lot of really open filming because he went through depression during COVID and things like that. He's been really open about mental health and things like that. And I'm a huge fan of Around the Horn, and it kind of sucks that it's going out the way it is.
And it turned some people that were maybe well-known regionally, like Woody Page, like Bob Ryan, into household names. And it turned Sarah Spain into a superstar. Sarah Spain was kind of a nobody. She shows up on Around the Horn, and all of a sudden she is a somebody and is turned that into a bunch of money. Mariotti was on there.
And Bomani Jones.
Yeah, Bomani Jones. Le Batard actually got his ESPN start there, and that led to his radio show and to what he's doing now. There's a lot of people that have benefited greatly from the 23 years of Around the Horn.
Yeah, all those. I mean, God, I watched dozens of episodes. Jackie McMullen. I think hearing Jackie McMullen talk about basketball on that show also like affected my fandom of the NBA. No joke. Hearing Bob Ryan and her talk about basketball, that affected my fandom of the NBA. Cool. Full stop. Because being in St. Louis, grew up in a family not tied into the NBA in any way, shape, or form. I barely remember hearing the name Michael Jordan in the 90s. I think I heard it more around Space Jam than I did around him actually being Michael Jordan of the Chicago Bulls. And so I had no concept of the NBA, but hosts like that, panelists like that, I think gave me that concept. Jay Adonde is one of my favorites for a while there. And also part of me is just, I worshipped ESPN in high school because there wasn't Twitter or Instagram as anything. There were forums back then, but we had laptops in high school. And so, I mean, there would be days where before noon, I would have read all the top stories on each individual league page. Like I was just sitting there, just bumping out ESPN story after ESPN story. And so I would see the bylines of the writers, and then I would hear them on Around the Horn. And it undoubtedly changed what I was as a sports fan, because I was a very casual sports fan as a kid. I was never that diehard 11-year-old. But like 14, we get cable, I get ESPN, I get NFL Network, and then it's all been off to the races since then.
4:00 this afternoon. Tonight, a big night. The Cardinals will be on Apple, but after the game, we'll have Cardinal postgame here, Cards Hub 365, right here on Sports Hub STL. The Battlehawks also play tonight, 7:00 at the Dome, and you can check out Battlehawks Hub weekly after the game with Luke Slaybaugh and Judy Strouder as they get you set for the action. They'll take you through the action of the game afterwards. Battlehawks coverage here on Sports Hub STL is presented by Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken. With the new Lee's Famous Recipe Chicken Battlehawks box, you can score up to 30% off Battlehawks tickets, plus get 4 of their famous breast strips and a side of potato wedges for just $8.99, only at Lee's Famous for Chicken. Max Duggan undefeated as a starter for your Battlehawks, and they take on the San Antonio Brahmas tonight at the Dome. Still tickets available. That game shows up as a road game on their schedule, but San Antonio couldn't get their stadium, so the game's here in St. Louis, 7:00 at the Dome, and you can get tickets right now. Also, we already said at the beginning of the show that Brooke Grimsley, of course, out because she had a kid, and she did have the kid, and in fact, she's posting pictures of the little lad. So congratulations again to Brooke and David, and we can't wait till you're coming back. But hey, take all the time you need, because you work your ass off on this show, and you're going to work your ass off as a mother, and so take all the time you need. Yeah, she's going to be tired. Brooke's going to be very tired. For good reason. Yeah, no doubt about it. Hey, we appreciate you being a part of the show today. Have a great holiday weekend. Enjoy the barbecue. Enjoy the baseball. It's Americana, and please thank somebody who has served you in the military. If you see some military around, thank them for their service on this Memorial Day weekend. When does the brisket preparation and grilling begin for you? 6 a.m.-ish on Sunday. Oh, man, I can't wait to hear the reports back on Tuesday. Yeah, Can't wait to watch on Monday. Yeah. And to all of you who have served us in the military or families of people that have, thank you so much for your service. We do appreciate it, and we remember you on this day. For Matthew, I'm Randy, and we will see you next Tuesday here on the Randy Karraker Show on Sports Hub STL.